They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but what happens when the apple doesn't want to be part of the tree at all? In a world obsessed with Elon Musk, the tech visionary, the billionaire meme lord, the face of Mars, one name quietly vanished from his story. A name once printed on birth certificates and family photos. Xavier Musk. Now, Vivian Jenna Wilson. A name change, a new identity, and a declaration to the courts.
I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form.
This is the story of Elon Musk's daughter, the one he lost. Not to an accident, but to rejection, to silence, to something far more complicated than most headlines dare to unpack. This is not just a family drama. It's a reflection of the world we live in, one shaped by power, identity, and the voices we refuse to hear. This is the story of Vivian Jenna Wilson. When your father is the richest man on earth, your life isn't just yours. It becomes part of a brand, a spectacle, an empire. But if you search Vivian Jenna Wilson, you won't find headlines crafted by PR teams. You won't see glitzy launch events or interviews on late-night TV. What you'll find instead is absence. Deliberate, deafening absence. Vivian was born Xavier Alexander Musk in 2004, one of a pair of twins, a child born into unimaginable wealth and unimaginable expectation. Her mother, Justine Musk, is an author. Her father, well, needs no introduction. For years, Xavier lived outside of public view, her name only surfacing in court filings and rare mentions. But in April of 2022, everything changed. She filed for a new name, a new gender marker, and a new reality, one where Elon Musk was no longer her father, at least not in name, not in identity, not in spirit. Her court request wasn't just about paperwork. It was a quiet revolution.
I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form.
And in that single sentence, Vivian Jenna Wilson did what few children of billionaires ever do. She walked away from the shadow of legacy, not with noise, but with finality. Transition, a word that, for some, evokes discomfort, for others, courage, and for a select few, rebellion. Vivian Jenna Wilson didn't simply transition from male to female, she transitioned out of a legacy. She chose not only a new gender, but a new lineage, taking the last name of her mother, Justine Wilson. In a world where visibility is both power and poison, Vivian made a choice that many wouldn't. She didn't seek the spotlight, she extinguished it. No Instagram announcements, no carefully managed statements, just a court document and a refusal. What's striking is the timing. In 2022, Elon Musk had begun to amplify public commentary many in the trans community found hurtful or dismissive. Tweets about pronouns being an aesthetic nightmare, statements mocking gender fluidity, jokes that, for Vivian, may not have felt like satire, but betrayal. Was it a reaction, a response to pain, or had this decision been brewing for years, the slow erosion of trust between father and daughter? We may never know, but what we do know is this. Vivian Jenna Wilson declared herself free from a name, free from a man who had become an idea. And in doing so, she made her identity, private yet powerful, impossible to ignore. There's no tweet thread long enough to explain the distance between a parent and child, no public statement that can make sense of estrangement, only silence and the decisions made within it. Vivian's legal separation from Elon Musk didn't happen in a courtroom filled with flashing cameras. It happened in a modest filing in Los Angeles County, the kind of paperwork most people ignore, unless you know what to look for. In that document, one line stood out like a flare in the dark.
I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form.
No explanation, no accusation, just an emotional scalpel, cutting the bloodline clean. Elon Musk would later speak vaguely about the situation. In interviews, he'd refer to neo-Marxist ideology as a reason for the rift, that radical influence had taken his child away from him. But there were no counterstatements, no interviews from Vivian, no denial, only more silence. And in that silence, a louder truth emerges. Some bonds, no matter how wealthy, how powerful, or how public, can still break. We often assume that fame shields people, that money insulates them. But sometimes, the higher the pedestal, the deeper the fracture beneath it. And perhaps, in walking away, Vivian wasn't trying to make a statement. Perhaps she was simply trying to heal. At first glance, this is a private story, a daughter distancing herself from her famous father. But the ripples extend far beyond any one family. Because Vivian's rejection of Elon Musk didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened in a cultural moment, a moment where the right to exist, to define oneself, is being debated in courtrooms, classrooms, and timelines. When a person transitions, they are not just changing a name or pronoun, they are choosing to become, fully, authentically, against the current. But what happens when that current is your own blood? Elon Musk, for many, represents futurism, the edge of innovation. But for others, especially in the LGBTQ community, he's become something else, a symbol of contradiction, a man building the future while dismissing the realities of those fighting to survive in the present. Vivian's decision, then, becomes more than personal. It becomes symbolic, a quiet defiance of the very structures that elevate Elon Musk: tech optimism, free speech, absolutism, masculine mythology. She didn't launch a crusade. She didn't need to. She simply walked away. And in doing so, Vivian Jenna Wilson reminded us that even in the most powerful of families, identity is not inherited. It is claimed. Vivian didn't ask for fame. She was born into it. Not the kind you earn, the kind that comes stamped on your passport, whispered in headlines, assumed by strangers. We live in an era where privacy is currency, and for the children of the ultra-famous, it's a luxury they rarely hold. Most lean into the machine. Trust fund influencers, red carpet appearances, family brands built like empires. Vivian did the opposite. She didn't monetize her name. She dismantled it. In an age where visibility is everything, she chose invisibility. No interviews, no reaction tweets, no clapbacks. Her absence became her power, and yet, her story forces us to confront something uncomfortable. Do we expect children of public figures to live in the spotlight just because their parents do? Do we feel entitled to their pain, their identity, their lives? Vivian reminds us of the cost of being known, and the rare strength it takes to disappear on your own terms. The name Musk echoes across industries: space, tech, cars, satellites, algorithms. But legacies are not only built in public. Sometimes they are undone in private. Vivian Jenna Wilson didn't write a tell-all. She didn't launch a counter-brand. She didn't drag her father on social media. She changed her name. And in that act, she told the world exactly who she is and who she's not. There's pain here, yes, estrangement, silence, possibly resentment. But there's also something else: agency, autonomy, a quiet refusal to be reduced to a symbol in someone else's myth. And perhaps that's what makes Vivian's story so striking. It's not loud, it's not scandalous, it's honest. In a world that demands performance, she chose to live, not as a Musk, but as herself. Vivian Jenna Wilson doesn't need 1 million followers. She doesn't need to be trending. She doesn't need to say a single word, because her story has already been told, in a signature on a court document, in the removal of a last name, in the reclamation of a first. We may never know what was said behind closed doors. We may never hear her side of the story, but maybe that's the point. Some stories aren't for public consumption. Some identities aren't meant to be explained. They are meant to be lived. And as the world keeps watching Elon Musk build the future, Vivian, quietly, has already built her own. A life beyond headlines, beyond legacy, beyond Musk.